Hello, good day from wherever you are watching us. You're all welcome to our Wednesday session. You're welcome. Say hello, say hi. Let us know where you are streaming from. Let us know where are you joining us from. So just drop it in the comment section. Let us know what are your expectations for today. You are all welcome. You are all welcome. So you're welcome to our weekly review and our weekly webinar. And today we're going to review the first session of our book. Yes, we're going to review a new book. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to review a new book, a beautiful book. It's called Deep Work. This is it. Oh, I don't know how you can see. This is a Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's a wonderful book. So we're going to review the first session of the book. So you're welcome. So say hello, say hi. Let us know where you're streaming from. Let us know. We're here to learn. So just say something. What are your expectations? So we're going to move straight into our conversation of today. My name is Choma Odikolo. You're all welcome to this wonderful platform. You're welcome to the Renewed Parent Academy. You're welcome to this platform where we equip ourselves with knowledge. So today, that is what we are going to be doing, to equip ourselves with more and more knowledge. So today we're going to be discussing about deep work. So when you hear the term deep work, what comes to your mind? Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir. I appreciate you. God bless you, sir. When you hear the term deep work, what comes to your mind? You know, the first time I saw this book, Deep Work, I was like, okay, what is deep work? What is deep work? So today we're going to learn what is deep work. How does deep work even affect us as individuals, as adults, as parents? How does it concern us? What are we expected to do? So you're welcome. Just sit down, grab your jotter, grab your journal and your pen. So let's move straight into our conversation of today. So what is deep work? Now, the author defined deep work as a professional activity that is performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limits. So deep work is a professional activity that we perform in a distraction-free area that pushes our cognitive abilities to its limits. Now, this effort, when we are in a state of deep work, it creates new value. When we are doing something that involves deep work, we're able to create new value, we're able to improve on our skill, and we're able to replicate what we are doing. So deep work has to do with we being focused, taking away distraction from what we are doing. We pushing ourselves, to create more, to add value. Now, what are the characteristics of deep work? Now, the first characteristics of deep work is being focused and undistracted. So deep work has to do with when we are focused and undistracted. So that activity you do that is devoid of distraction, that there's no distraction, but you're focused on it, that is called deep work. Another characteristic of a deep work or an activity that is deep work is mentally demanding. An activity you're focused on. This activity is mentally demanding. You're just focused on it to give in your very, very best. Remember what we said earlier. Deep work is that activity you do without distraction. So this activity you carry out that is mentally demanding, but you're carrying it out without distraction. Now, another characteristic of deep work is that deep work has to do with high value creation. So when you want to create something that involves high value, when you want to create something that you need to put in the work, you need to sit at it, you need to do your very best, you need to get yourself involved in deep work, you need to be focused, you need to take away distraction, you need to get into what you are doing. Another characteristic of an activity that we do that can be termed as this deep work is when this activity leads to growth and mastery. So when you want to grow on something, when you want to master something, you want to learn a particular skill, or you want to learn a particular software or trade or something, as long as that thing is going to make you grow, is going to make you to master that thing, you have to be deep. You have to put in the work. You have to be deep. That is, you have to avoid distraction. You have to be focused in doing it. Another characteristic of deep work is that deep work takes time. It takes time. It's not shallow work. It's not something you do, you rush, multitask and do it. No, it takes time. You need to focus on that activity you want to do to achieve results. It takes intention and it takes effort. So deep work takes your time. You need to plan for the time. You need to focus. You need to give in your time. So that activity you want to do that you know, okay, this thing needs time. You need to do deep work. It needs time. It needs intention. You have to be intentional about this activity you're doing, and it needs effort. And deep work can't be multitasked. So deep work is not when you're multitasking. Deep work is when you're focused on that task, just one task per time. And deep work it's often done in silence. So when you want to do something that is deep, when you want to do something that is mentally demanding, you have to take away distraction. You have to go to that place where you know you can, you're quiet, you're silent, you can think, you can get inspiration and all that. So these are the characteristics of deep work. So what are some of the examples of doing a deep work? So examples of deep work could be, maybe for example, you're writing a book. You're writing a book, this thing involves, you need to think, it's mentally demanding. So it's an activity of deep work, and in such activity you don't do it shallow, you don't do it multitasking. You need to focus. When you're preparing for a proposal, or you're preparing for a talk, or you're preparing for, maybe you're invited for a program and you're preparing for a talk, it's a deep work. You need to do deep work. You need to focus. You need to take away distraction. Also, when you're developing a new skill, as I said earlier, for example, you're learning how to code, you're learning teaching, you're learning any new skill, or you're learning a software, you need to put in deep work. You need to get focused. You need to take away distraction. You need to get to that point where you are silent. You need to get to that point where you can think and achieve your results. Another example of a deep work is, for example, you're creating a course, you're creating a podcast, you're preparing a curriculum, you're creating a material that is going to be of benefit to people. It involves deep work. It's not shallow work. It's not the work you are going to be juggling between one and two. You need to focus and get it done. Another example of deep work, maybe you're doing your personal reflection, you're studying the Bible, you're studying your book. You need deep work. You need to get focused at it. You need to avoid distraction. You need to put in the work. Then another example of deep work is quality time with our children without distraction. When you are connecting with your child, when you're bonding with your child, when you're having that quality time with your child without distraction, it can be termed as deep work. And you need to put in you need to be present, you need to be physically available. Not that you're connecting with your child and you're doing something else. So when you're connecting with your child, we also need to put in deep work. Now we're talking about deep work. So let us talk about shallow work. What is shallow work? Now the author of this book, Deep Work, which is Newport, he taught us what shallow work is. And he says shallow work is a non-cognitive, demanding, logistical style task, often performed while distracted. So shallow work is that work you perform while you're distracted. Is that work you can juggle, you can multitask. Shallow work is that work that is not demanding. Do you get? Now, these efforts tend to be easy to replicate. So shallow work is that work that you think is easy to do, it's easy to replicate, it's easy to juggle between two things. And most times, they do not create much value in the world. So that is what shallow work is. So shallow work is when you're not putting in your all, when you're distracted, when you can multitask, you can juggle, you're doing one thing and you're doing another thing. That is what shallow work is. And what are some of the characteristics of shallow work? Now, a work can be shallow when you don't have focus, or you're not putting in your efforts. So when you're doing something as a parent and you're not focusing on that thing is actually shallow. When you're doing a work and you're not focusing on it, it's actually shallow. When you're doing something and you're distracted, you're easily distracted, you're doing that thing amidst your distraction, you're not doing a deep work. What you're doing is a shallow work. When what you're doing does not require thinking, you're doing something, but it doesn't require much thinking, you just need to do it. Probably it's a routine work, you're used to doing it. It's a shallow work, it's not a deep work. Now, when you're doing a task or you're carrying out an activity and it's so urgent, you're doing it urgent, it's not important. Like you can do it urgently, you're not bothered if you get all the results, if you get everything done. That can be termed as shallow work. Now, shallow work is always done in amidst busy routines. So when you have busy routines, you juggle, you multitask, you do that work. That thing you're doing is not deep work. It is called shallow work. And shallow work creates little long-term effects. So that thing you're doing that doesn't have so much long-term effects is not deep work, it's shallow work. So examples of shallow work is replying to routine emails and messages. So when you constantly reply to messages on your phone or emails, you're not doing a deep work. What you're doing is a shallow work. When you're scrolling through social media, you're actually doing shallow work, because you can multitask. You can be scrolling on social media and be doing other tasks. So scrolling through social media is an example of shallow work. When you are attending unproductive meetings that are unproductive to you, meetings that you just see the notification and you're here, you're there, you're here and there, what you're doing is shallow work, not deep work. When you do tasks that looks busy but don't move your vision forward, so that activity you're doing, that task you're doing, that it looks so busy, it looks like you're doing something, you're busy, but it doesn't move your vision forward, it doesn't move you forward, what you're doing is a shallow work, not a deep work. And also, when you constantly check notifications in your phone, you're always scrolling, when your phone beeps, you're checking notification here and there, what you're doing is a shallow work, not a deep work. So deep work is that work that is done when you're undistracted. Deep work is that work that is demanding. You need to focus. You need to take away distraction. Deep work is that work that has a long-term benefit, long-term effects. You know, when you're doing this thing, you know that this thing has a long-term effect. Deep work is that work that is core to your success. You know that this thing I'm doing, it is so important to my success. You need to put in deep work. Deep work is that work that is related to your purpose. That thing you're doing, you know, it has a long-term effect. It has a long-term benefit. It's going to lead to my growth. It's going to lead to progress. That is what deep work is. Deep work is the work that brings fulfillment to you. Is that work that brings growth to you. Is that work that makes meaning, that makes sense. That is what deep work is. And as I said earlier, for example, you're writing a book, you're preparing a proposal, you're doing your reflection, what you need to put in at that point in time is deep work and not shallow work. That work that builds lasting legacy for you, that work that builds a lasting influence for you, what you need to put in while doing that work is deep work and not shallow work. Shallow work is you're often distracted. Shallow work is the work that is so easy to do. You don't mind juggling between two activities as long as you're getting it done. Shallow work is that work that is low. It is short term. It doesn't have a long term effect. It doesn't have a long term benefit. That is what shallow work is. Shallow work is that work that you do. You're fatigued, you're tired, you're distracted, you're just burnt out. That is shallow work. Shallow work, for example, as I said, when you constantly check emails, when you constantly check your message, what you're doing is shallow work, not deep work. Now, shallow work keeps you busy, but it doesn't build you. So you're always busy. You're doing something. Anybody that calls you say, I'm very busy. I'm a very busy person. You're busy, but you're not being built. You're not growing. What you're doing is shallow work. So we're going to go through the chapters of this book. Chapter 1 of this book, Deep Work. The author tried to tell us the importance of deep work, and he says deep work is valuable. So the core message we should pick from this book, from this chapter, is that in our fast-paced, distracted world, the ability to focus deeply without distraction is becoming increasingly rare. So our ability to focus as parents, as adults, as individuals in our world today is becoming rare. We have a lot of distraction facing us on the face. We have so many things calling for our attention at the same time. We have so many things distracting us. So it is very difficult for a whole lot of parents, for a whole lot of us to be focused. So most of us are distracted. Most of us are distracted. That is why deep work is valuable. That is why we need to embrace this message of deep work. But it is valuable to us for us to imbibe deep work in our activity, deep work in everything we need to do. Now, the two core abilities for us to thrive as parents, as adults, as individuals today, number one, the ability to quickly master hard things. Sometimes a good number of us shy away from hard things. Sometimes we want to push away hard things. Remember the book we studied last week, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And Brian Tracy told us in that book that we should eat the biggest frog. And what he meant by that is do the biggest activity, that activity that seems so hard, that activity that seems so difficult, that activity that you easily want to push behind you. That should be the activity you should do first before you move over to other routine activity. So we must have the ability to master hard things. And the truth is that if you want to master anything hard now, you have to put in deep work. If you want to master a skill, you want to master a software, you want to build on yourself, you want to read a book, you want to build on your career, what you need is not shallow work. What you need is deep work. That is why deep work is valuable to us. Now, our ability to produce at an elite level, our ability to produce something that is of great quality and something that is of in good time, in good speed, we need deep work. If we need to produce something, if we have to produce something that is valuable to our world, to people, what we need is deep work and not shallow work. That is why we have to embrace this concept of deep work. We have to embrace this idea of deep work, because that is what we need for our growth. That is what we need if we are going to be producers. If you're going to make value, to add value to this world, what you need, what I need, what we need is deep work. No more shallow work, no more doing things amidst distraction, no more doing things and multitasking. What we need to put in now in this day and time, where distraction is rare, where distraction is common and focus is rare, what we need to put on is deep work. Now, deep work supports both abilities. It's our superpower in this 21st century. You know, in this 21st century, we have a lot of distractions, as I said earlier. There are so many things looking at us in the face and distracting us. In fact, sometimes you literally need to have self-control not to get distracted. When you look around you, you have different kinds of platforms you can get distracted with. There is social media, there is television, there are programs here and there. So many things to distract us. But do you know that our superpower in this 21st century is the ability for us to practice deep work? And that is why we must embrace this message of deep work. Now, shallow work, as I said earlier, for example, constantly checking your message, you're constantly checking your emails, you're multitasking. Do you know multitasking is a myth? When you multitask, you're not giving your best. When you multitask, what you're doing is shallow work. And when you multitask, you achieve less results than someone that is not multitasking. So when you're multitasking, you're not doing a deep work. What you're doing is a shallow work. And this shallow work keeps us busy, but doesn't push us to grow. It doesn't push us to produce real value. We are busy. We are doing stuff. We are going to work. You work 8 hours, 9 hours. You're so busy, and busy. But do you know, when you're busy doing shallow work, you're busy, but you're not really growing. You're busy, but you're not really producing value. Let me give us an example. For example, you wake up in the morning, and the first probably 3 hours of your morning, you check emails, you reply emails. Do you know you're busy, but you've not actually done something deep? You're busy replying emails. You're busy probably answering your messages and all that. You're busy, but that activity at that point in time, is it something that is going to make you to grow? Is it something that is going to add to your vision? Is it something that is going to add to your purpose? That is why we need to replan or re-strategize on how we plan our day or how we go about our day. So don't go about your day doing shallow work, and at the end you say you're busy, but you're not really growing in the real sense. You're busy doing a lot of things, but you're not really adding value in the real sense. So we need to question our activities. We need to question what we do, and we have to embrace this concept of deep work. No more shallow work. So we go in for deep work, we get the work done, and we move to other activities. Now, as parents, deep work means we being present and intentional. We being present for ourselves. We being intentional towards ourselves. Do you know that most of us are not even present with ourselves? Most of us don't even know ourselves. Most of us are not even aware of ourselves. Most of us are not even aware of our strengths. Most of us are not aware of our abilities. Most of us are not aware of our capacity. Now, the truth is that when you're not aware of who you are, the world will tell you who you are. When you're not aware of who you are, the world will tell you who you are or who you're not supposed to be. So we need to be present first for ourselves because it starts with us. We need to be intentional with ourselves. Then we can move over to our children, being present with our children, being present with our husbands, with our wives, and being intentional. So whether it's quality time you're having with yourself, whether it is quality time you're having with your children, whether we are planning a family function, probably you're planning a family activity, you're planning a family getaway, or you're planning a family anywhere, probably you're going out, or you're planning a family vacation. Do you get? So we must be present. Whether you're developing anything as a family, you're working as a family, you must put in deep work. So the point is that amidst doing all these things, don't multitask. Don't be juggling between activities. For example, you're spending time with your children and you're making a call. What are you doing? You're doing shallow work. You're not fully present. So deep work means when you're present with your children, you're there present. When you're present with yourself, you're there present, devoid of distraction. Amidst you get, there's no distraction, there's nothing distracting you there. Being present with your family, being present, being mindful of what you are doing. That is what deep work is. So deep work is like our superpower. In our increasing competitive 21st century, in our economy, what we need is deep work. If we must be producers, if we must be value adders as parents, as adults, as individuals, we must apply deep work in our day-to-day activity. Then the second chapter, which says deep work is rare. And the author of this book tried to make us understand that despite its value, deep work is rare. Despite the importance of deep work, despite why we need to build and embrace deep work in our 21st century, deep work is still rare because our culture rewards busyness and constant connectivity rather than focused productivity. This culture, our culture we grew up in, it rewards us for being busy. It rewards us for just being, just doing the work. But it doesn't really reward productivity. Our culture doesn't really reward the process. Our culture rewards the results. Our culture doesn't see the process it took you to get to that result. Our culture rewards the result. That is why in schools, sometimes, some schools, I don't know of now, but when we are growing up in school, some schools, you see, okay, they grade, okay, they are going to give first position, second position, and third position. But do you know, that might not really be the true test of knowledge. But in this sense, what the culture is rewarding is the end result, not really the process. So as parents, as individuals, we must embrace this concept of deep work, because when we put in the work, when we are deep in what we are doing, it's going to help us to be productive. Now, most people in our various workplaces, in our homes, we prioritize shallow work. We respond to things that are so easy. You want to respond to emails because it's easy for you. We juggle between tasks. We look so busy. You're at home, you're at work. You look so busy. But the question is, are you really productive? Are you really achieving results? Even amidst your business, are you really achieving results? Now, even social media. There are so many things, as I said, that distract us. Social media is often a distraction. Sometimes, even in the office, you might even be distracted. If you have an office that is form of an open plan, you might even get distracted. So we must be aware of this distraction and intentionally draft out strategies on how we can navigate through this distraction and begin to focus more on our work, begin to focus more on building deep work. Now, there's a cultural shift where being always available is seen as being important. Do you know that sometimes when you're always available, checking your emails, replying your message, you're not really productive per se? You might think, okay, I'm doing this, I'm replying emails, I'm responding to messages, but what you're doing is shallow work. What you're doing is that you're busy. But the thing is that the question we should ask ourselves, this activity I'm doing now, does it help in my long-term goal? Does it help or contribute to my long-term vision? That is the question we should ask ourselves. Now, even as parents, we often fall into this trap of shallow parenting. Yes, there's something as shallow parenting. Sometimes we fall into this trap because sometimes we are constantly distracted, constantly pressing our phone. Your child is asking you a question and you're pressing your phone and answering. Your child is talking to you and you're distracted. So sometimes as parents, we find ourselves in this circle or in this boat, in this state of shallow parenting, where we are constantly distracted, where we are constantly multitasking, where we are constantly checking our phones. You're constantly checking your phones. We are never fully engaging with our children. At this point, what we are doing is that we're practicing shallow parenting. And that is not the goal. Our goal is to practice deep parenting. What does it entail? Deep parenting entails being fully present with our children, being fully there. You're present physically, you're present emotionally, you're present and you're involved. Don't be the parent that is physically present. You can say, oh, I'm present, I'm at home, but you're not fully present. So we must be aware of these things that take our attention or that take away the attention we have with our children. Now, rare is the parent who truly listens. Most of us don't listen. Most of us parents don't listen. Your child is telling you something and all you want to hear is for this child to keep quiet, or you want to answer this child. Your child is trying to tell you what happened in school and you're already questioning this child. You're already asking this child questions. What if we allow our children to express themselves? What if we allow them to talk? What if we do more of listening and they do more of talking? Do you know when you do more of listening, you get so many messages. You get the areas you need to work on your child. You get the areas you need to improve on your child. Most of us, our parents, are not listening. We are not listening to what our children are saying. We are not even listening to their emotions. You're not listening to what they are telling you. Do you know that your child can be talking to you? You're listening to what the child is not even saying. You're listening to the emotions of this child. You're listening to the feelings of this child. So we must learn to listen as parents. Most of us don't play with our children. Most of us say, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm tired. Oh, I'm not ready to play. You don't play with your child. Your child wants to play. You have this child that needs your attention, but you don't do it. Why? Because we just want to do that thing which is shallow. We want to do that thing we can multitask. We want to do that thing that is easy for us. We don't want to be there and put in the work. That is why I said in this 21st century, our superpower is deep work. Ability for us to put in the deep work in everything we do. Deep work in your studies, your studying, put in the deep work. Your parenting, put in the deep work. Be present and be fully present. Be present and drop your phone. Be present and engage with your children. Be present and engage with your husband. Be present and engage with your wife. Be present and engage with yourself. That is why deep work is rare. Because we don't want to do deep work. We all want to do that which is easy. We want to do that which is shallow. We don't want to do the work. But the message today is for us as parents, for us as adults, as individuals, to embrace deep work. Deep work in every single thing you do, because it is our superpower in this 21st century. But the parent that embraces deep work, do you know what happens to that parent? That parent is going to be transformed. That parent that embraces deep work in their parenting, you're going to build children that are going to transform the world. You're going to be transformed. Anything you do that you put in the deep work, that you put in deep work into that thing, into that activity, you're going to get transformation. So deep work has its benefits. Deep work has its rewards. So I bring us this message of deep work for us to embrace deep work in everything you do. Now, as a parent, can you carve out one deep parenting moment? You know, being deep, not being distracted with your children. For example, you want to teach your children and you're not distracted. You look at your children, you face them in the eye and teach them. Even when you're talking with your child, not being distracted, be there and be fully there. Now, the deep life, of course, is not for everybody. Deep work, deep life is not for everybody, because some people will say, oh my God, no, I can't do this. Oh no. Some people say, no, I can't do it. It is not for everybody because it requires hard work. It requires drastic changes to our habits. So we need to come to terms that deep work requires hard work. It has its rewards, but it requires hard work. It requires changes to our habits. So we have to embrace deep work. Then chapter 3 of this book that says deep work is meaningful. Now, deep work isn't just valuable or rare. It brings meaning and fulfillment to our lives. So when we put in the deep work, do you know it brings fulfillment? It brings meaning to your life. When you're preparing for that course, you're preparing for your exam, you're writing a book, you're writing a proposal, you're connecting with your child, you're having conversation, you're doing your work, and you're putting in your focus. You're not distracted. You're not multitasking. Do you know it brings fulfillment to you? Do you know it brings meaning to you? So when we work deeply as parents, we tap into our highest potential. When we work deeply, we tap into the highest potential that we have. But when we work shallow, we don't even get to scratch or tap into our potential. Now, we as parents, human beings are wired to derive satisfaction from craftsmanship and intentional effort. Sometimes we want to derive satisfaction from the things that, that just comes to us easy. Now, shallow tasks may feel urgent, but they don't satisfy us. It don't satisfy you as a person. Shallow tasks may feel, oh, I can do it. It's easy. I can juggle between different tasks. But yes, you can do it, but it doesn't really satisfy you. It doesn't really bring fulfillment. It doesn't bring a sense of meaning or a sense of purpose. But focused work connects us to something greater. When you're focused under your tasks, you're reflecting, you're journaling, you're focused. It connects you to something greater. It allows us to build. Focused work allows us to build. Deep work allows you to build. Deep work allows you to think. Deep work allows you to create. Deep work allows you to contribute meaningfully. So you can see the benefits of deep work can never be overemphasized. If you want to be a creator, you want to be a thinker, you want to transform something in the world, you need to put in the deep work. So that is why I bring us this message of deep work. I bring us this message of we embracing focus, devoid of distraction, being focused on our work, because it brings a sense of fulfillment. It brings a sense of purpose to us. So we have to be intentional as parents with what we do. We have to be intentional in our connection with our children. We have to be intentional with the legacy we are leaving behind, because deep work is also part of our legacy. When you're fully present to your child or with your child, you're connected. It's a way of transference of legacy. Deep work helps to connect to our sense of vision, to our purpose in life, to our meaning in life. But shallow work, shallow parenting, it feels busy. You're always busy. The busy parent, you're juggling from different places to different places. You're invited for this program. You're here today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're busy, but you're not really present. What you're doing is shallow work and not deep work. And shallow work does not produce the result. So we need to come to this point of assessing ourselves. As a parent, ask yourself this question. Am I shallow in my parenting? Am I practicing shallow parenting, or am I practicing deep parenting? You're practicing shallow parenting when you multitask, when you're fully distracted. Everything and everyone distracts you. Every activity distracts you. Every news on social media distracts you. Everything happening distracts you. That's when you do that, you're practicing shallow parenting. You're connecting with your child, but you're distracted. You're listening to ringing tune. Someone is calling you. Someone is doing this. You're practicing shallow parenting. So we need to come and assess ourselves and ask ourselves, what am I really doing? Am I transferring the right legacy to my children? The legacy of deep work. Am I transferring the right message to my children, for my children to see and emulate and pick up this message? So that is it for us. I bring us this message. I encourage us to practice deep work in everything we do, in our parenting, in our career, in every area of our life. Because if we have to be renewed in our minds, if we have to be renewed in our thoughts, if we must embrace this mindset of growth, we need to embrace the concept of deep work. So that is it for us today. I believe you've got value. You've got value for your time. You've got value for joining us in this book review. Thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come in for our weekly webinar. So please drop it in the comment section. Even if you're catching a replay, how was this session for you? What are you going to be doing differently? What is that thing you begin to run with today and begin to act on it? Begin to do it differently. For me, I'm going to be focused more. I'm going to avoid distraction. I'm going to be focused. So drop it in the comment section. Let us know what is that one thing you are going to be doing different. So thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time and I do not take your time for granted. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Renewed Parent Academy. Get a copy of my book, Becoming a Renewed Parent. It's on Amazon. I'm going to drop the link also for us to get it. Yes, let us be renewed in our minds. And it's also start from the point of we practicing deep work. So thank you till I come your way next time. Do have a great day and bye.